Oh, it's 2:15. A ghost story from the last days of steam. It's 1964 and Clive Swift and Lindsay Marshall star in Fridays When It Rains by Nick Warburton.
Very nearly the last train of the day. Last train of the working week, in fact. It's Friday, you see, and the station is gradually emptying. Nothing here but grime and darkness. Shops go dark and offices empty, but then, of course, other lights are lit and other people come out. The railway tavern just outside the station. There's a man in a corner sitting at a round table, his head propped sideways on his hands, staring at his empty glass. But even this dawdler will leave in time, heading for the last train on the last but one train. And then... oh yes, then the station master will make his way across the concourse, a flag under his arm, head down, quite unobserved, because there'll be no one left to observe him. And he'll slip into his small office. It smells of soot and oil lamps. And the station will be, what would it be? Changed, I suppose. It's a different place with no one on it. Of course, the last train hasn't yet left, because there it stands. Coaches half cream, half maroon. All the windows closed, you see. Oh no, one window half open. Nothing else is moving on the station, just a breath of steam now and again. So let me tell you while we're waiting. Yes, let me tell you. There was once a girl with long black hair, who came through this station. She had dark eyes, and they seemed to shine even when she looked thoughtful or serious, which she did most of the time. Nice girl, nice family, you could tell. She came through the station in the morning with hordes of others at the busiest time of day, and through again at night with not quite so many. She was new to her job, you see, so she often stayed late trying to get the hang of things, poor girl. Perhaps this is what gave her such a serious look. Anyway, one particular evening, the caretaker was hovering to let her out onto the street.
Good night, Mr. Gripper.
It was dusk. A lamp had come on just outside the office door. The pool of light it shed changed the colour and the shape of things in the street. So she wasn't sure, not absolutely sure, which way to take for the station. Which was silly, really, because she knew the direction well enough. She passed a shop she thought she knew. At this hour of the day, of course, it was shuttered. It didn't look quite the same. But shortly after the shop, there should be a turning into a narrow alley. And yes, there is a turning. There are no lamps in the alley, so she can't tell whether doorways are side turnings or side turnings doorways. She thinks she might have missed a turning. Yes, she must have done, because when she does turn, the alley is even narrower, and it arcs back on itself somehow, and after several minutes she finds herself back on the street outside the office, or a building very like the office. So she sets off again, walking a little quicker this time. But the funny thing is...
No, it can't be.
She gets nowhere. She ends up on the same street, or a street that looks the same.
Please! Can you help me?
She's in a maze, it seems, and nothing she decides to do will allow her out. Poor girl, she's distraught by now.
No, stop! Please stop!
But there's no help. No one seems to know she's there. And every time she stops under a lamppost to check the time,
Oh, no.
it seems to have jumped ahead already. She knows when the last train leaves and she's afraid she'll miss it.
Station.
There it was, quite suddenly and unexpectedly.
It's too late now. The last train's gone.
Or so she thought. She walked onto the empty platform, because although it was pointless, there was nowhere else for her to go. And there was a train, still waiting. It stood there steaming, ready to leave. And it began to leave.
Please wait! Wait for me! Please!
You were lucky.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I didn't know. I thought I was alone.
Not quite. Well, you were lucky to catch this one. I believe it must be the last.
Yes. I thought I'd missed them all.
I thought so too. Then I found this one waiting. I'm not sure why. It should have departed ages ago.
Yes. I'd given up hope.
Oh, you all right, miss?
Yes, thank you.
I don't mean to intrude, but you're obviously upset. If there's anything I can do...
No, really.
Some tea, perhaps. I don't know if that's possible, but I can try.
No, it's just running for the train. Thank you. I'll be all right.
Well, if you're sure. I expect the anxiety didn't help.
Anxiety.
If you'd missed this one, I mean,
Well, yes.
you'd have been stranded.
The strange thing is... Well, it's probably not at all strange, really. I probably just panicked, but I left work in plenty of time and then I got lost.
Lost from work?
Yes. I've only been at the office about a week and I thought I knew the way to the station perfectly well. It's not that far, but... Tonight, well, I couldn't find it at all. I kept going round in circles.
Where was this?
Lavender Street.
Oh, well.
Do you know it?
A little, yes. All those streets beginning with L. Lavender, leather.
That's right, Lorimer.
Yeah, and they're all quite
I
twisted.
never noticed that before, the beginning with L.
I'm right, though. And all sort of running into each other. I'm not surprised you got lost.
I couldn't work it out. Wherever I turned,
I shouldn't let it worry you. It happened to me once.
Did it really?
When I first went to work round there, yeah. You know what I think it is? I think when you first start out at a place, you pay particular attention to the route because you know it's important.
I did,
So
yes.
you say to yourself, that's the tobacconist, I always turn there.
Yes.
And you don't take note of anything else, it's all you need. And then, when you come across another little street that has a tobacconist in it, you think, this must be it, but it isn't. And then you don't know where you are.
Do you think that's what I did?
Probably, as I say, it happened to me. I got lost, and that's what I put it down to.
I thought it was me. I thought I was being so silly.
No.
And then I got a bit frightened.
Well, of course you did. My nerves were in a rare old state when I got lost.
It's nice to know I'm not the only one. Getting lost, I mean.
Oh, no. People are always doing it, especially if they work round Lavender Street. I'm sorry, I'm talking away here. You probably just want to sit in peace.
No, really,
Collect your thoughts, and anyway, talking to strangers, well, it's not wise, not really.
No. You're quite safe with me.
No, I didn't mean you. I meant...
Yes, no, just a joke.
Oh, I see. All the same, you do have to be careful.
I know. And I am. I'm a very good judge of character. Who to avoid and what have you.
Really?
Well, you have to be these days, as you say. And I can tell you're all right.
Can you? How?
It's hard to say. You dress very carefully, for one thing.
Do I?
Yes. You can tell a lot from that.
Oh, well. Anyway, I probably should keep quiet to get back to my newspaper.
No, talking's helpful, really. If you're a bit upset, it takes your mind off things.
Oh, well then.
Really, I'm grateful. talk as much as you like.
Thank you. I will.
And now you can't think of anything to say.
No, I'm afraid I can't. Although,
Yes.
no, perhaps not.
What? What is it?
Well, I was thinking of a story they tell sometimes.
A story?
Yes, one I first heard told on this train, or at any rate a train very like this.
What's it about?
Well, as a matter of fact, it's about a train journey. You know, a journey on this particular line, which is why I was told it in the first place, I suppose.
Who did tell you?
Or a stranger. A man who happened to be in the same carriage as me. Quite respectable looking. His coat was very nicely cut, I remember.
There you are, you see. So you absolutely must tell me.
It might not be the kind of thing you want to hear.
Why not?
In the light of your experience, I mean, getting lost. I wouldn't want it to unsettle you.
I'm not usually put off by stories.
Well, with this one, you're supposed to be, I think.
I'm supposed to be put off?
It's a sort of warning. That's how it was told to me, anyway.
What about?
What's the matter?
The train usually stops here.
Does it?
I hope we stop at my station.
I expect we will. I'll make sure we do, if you like.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind. Now, you're not going to mention your story again, are you?
Aren't I?
No, you're hoping I was distracted.
Well, there are other things to talk about.
I won't be put off.
I can see I was quite wrong about you.
About me?
You seemed so serious to begin with.
Well, to begin with, I was.
Yeah, but you looked as if you were serious all the time, a worrier. But I don't think that's really you, is it?
I hope not.
In that case, it's probably quite safe to tell you the story, if you insist.
Oh, I do.
It was a good long time ago when this was supposed to have happened, and it concerned a girl. A girl who was a bit like you, in fact.
Like me? How?
To look at, she had black hair, too.
Really?
I believe so, tied back the same way.
I think you made that up.
Did I?
I bet they never told you what colour her hair was. You made that up because you're telling me.
Well, perhaps I did, yes. Perhaps she was like you and perhaps she wasn't. Doesn't really matter. Anyway, this was about 50 years ago, so there are more differences than similarities. Every Friday she caught the train to go home.
So she was only in town on Friday?
No, she was in town all week. She attended a college for young ladies, and she had rooms there, I believe.
So, well off then?
Oh, well off, yes. It was a college for refined young ladies. She stayed there all week and went home on Fridays, then back again to college on the early train on Monday. Sometimes she was the only passenger on that platform of a Monday morning, and almost always the only one of a Friday night, because, you see, it was only a small station on a branch line. It did have rather nice station buildings, though. Old red brick with a steep slate roof. Station master's office, a waiting room with an open fire. It had a sign, a metal sign, for Bovril, and a wooden stand for milk churns.
And now you're going to say it was my station,
Am I?
where I get off,
Why should I do that?
like you did with the girl's hair.
Oh, I see. No, I'm not.
We'll see.
No, we won't. It was not your station.
But you don't know what my station is.
Do I not?
I never said.
No, I don't believe you did.
Then, how...
It wouldn't be your station because this station, the station in the story, was closed down years ago.
Oh, I
It's
see.
derelict, as is the line. Trains don't go there anymore. Your station's a small station, is it?
Yes, with all the old buildings and very quiet.
Oh, so indeed, the same in many ways, but really not the same. Anyway, the girl travelled home on a Friday. She liked to walk up the hill which led from the station up the hill to the big house. She walked there because she lived there. She was the young lady of the house. She could easily have had a carriage sent out to meet her, but she preferred to walk. It was half a mile and very pleasant. A deep lane with high hedges, hawthorn twisted through with ivy and clematis. She walked under clouds of blossom in the spring, And in the autumn, she watched the yellowhammers in the branches. Of all the birds, she liked the yellowhammers best.
You sound as if you know her.
Do I?
The way she liked yellowhammers best.
Well, when I first heard the story, I did feel that. Though, of course, that's the way it is sometimes with the imagination.
What is?
Well, you imagine things, and they seem so real, you almost believe they're true. You picture a face, someone peering at you through a gate, say, and it's not just any face. It's a real face, a face with a past, unlike any face you've ever seen before. Doesn't this happen to you?
I don't know. I don't think it does, no.
Are you sure?
I always know if I've made something up or if it's real. Of course I do.
And what about your way home tonight?
You mean the train?
I mean walking out of your office. You imagine you were going somewhere you were convinced to be.
Well, yes.
And you weren't. See what I mean? You have to be careful, or your imagination might actually change the world you take for granted. Shall I go on?
Yes, please.
Oh, good. So the girl would walk up the lane to the big house. Most days, but not all days. She wouldn't walk in the rain. When it rained, the house did send the carriage for her. It was agreed. She never had to send a message. On Fridays, when it rained, the carriage would be at the station waiting for her. A black carriage with wheels trimmed in red and a folding hood.
How long ago was this?
I told you, 50 years.
I wouldn't mind someone waiting for me with a carriage sometimes.
Oh, do they not?
No, they don't. I have to walk, not down some country lane. I go past a factory and the Three Shepherds, and someone always calls out. You know how it is.
I can imagine. Mind you, there were times the carriage wasn't there because the weather was uncertain or there'd be something going on at the house, and the girl had to wait at the station for about a quarter of an hour. She didn't mind that, though. She liked the little station just as she liked the walk.
A bit lonely, though. Friday night on an empty station.
Oh, it wasn't empty.
I thought you said she was the only passenger on a Friday night.
She was.
Then who else?
There was a station master.
Oh, yes.
You
of
people
course.
do tend to forget the station master. They take him for granted. But the place has to be run, doesn't it?
Yes.
He was a young man, 19. And even though it was a tiny station, he did very well to be entrusted with the running of it at such a tender age.
So she had someone to keep her company.
You might think so, but it wasn't really like that, and this is the point. They never spoke.
Why not?
Why do you think?
I don't know. Perhaps he was shy.
Nothing to do with shyness, no.
We're slowing down.
Oh, yeah.
I can't see why. It's too dark.
We're approaching a crossing or another station.
Yes. It's a station. We're stopping.
Well, where are we?
I'm not sure. I usually recognize all the stations.
Not the last one. Nor this, probably.
Well, there's nobody getting off. Nobody waiting either.
What's the name of the station?
I can't see. Oh, yes, it's something Thorpe. I can only see half the sign. Did you see anyone else get on the train?
No, I don't think I did. Mind you, I was late arriving myself. I assumed there were others.
Unless we're the only ones.
I don't think that's likely.
No. You were on this train before.
Oh, was I?
Yes, when you were told the story about the girl, so there were other people then.
Oh, yes, there were. And we did stop at all manner of stations. I remember we did. And there must have been people getting off, because he was telling the story to 3 or 4 of us to begin with, but I was the only one left to hear the end.
So the others never heard what happened to the girl?
No, unless they heard on another occasion. I suppose that's possible.
You'd better carry on. We might reach my station before we get to the end.
All my station.
What happened to this girl? I have a feeling about it.
Oh, yeah.
I think she's in for a shock.
Do you?
That's what it feels like to me.
Uh-huh.
Go on then, am I right?
Well, we'll see, won't we? You remember where she was?
On the station, about to get into the carriage.
So you assume.
You told me. That's what you said. On Friday, when it rains...
The carriage comes, yes, almost always. But on one particular Friday, it didn't come. And a quarter of an hour passed, and it still didn't come.
I knew it.
So she had to keep on waiting.
Yes?
And that's where we'll leave her. Waiting.
What?
The one Friday in all the years she had to wait.
But that's not an ending. You can't stop there.
I have no control over it, Connie. This is the story as it was told to me. I can only repeat it.
So that's the last we hear of her?
No, that's the point where the other story starts.
Other story? What other story?
You must have at least two people to make a story. So this is the story of the young man, the station master. Now think of him, the son of a farm worker who's made his way up to station master, who makes a good job of it, who paints the neat little fence and sees that the troublesome catch on the waiting room door is oiled. He wears a fine suit, which he prides himself on keeping smart, and he has a gold watch chain across the front of his waistcoat.
And he never spoke to the girl?
He might have thanked him for showing him a ticket, but no more than that.
But he wanted to, didn't he?
You think so?
I'm sure he did.
You're right. But how could he? Here he was, the son of a farm worker, and there she was, the beautiful daughter of the big house. It's not shyness that opens up the gulf between them. It's class, the great gulf of class.
They could still talk. It's not that much of a barrier.
Oh, yes, if he'd been the son of the big house and she'd been the daughter of a farm worker, that way round, there might have been some sort of conversation. But it wasn't that way round, Connie. It simply wasn't.
Connie? You know my name?
Yeah?
I thought so. I thought you said it before.
Well, you told me.
Did I?
Indirectly, you used it of yourself. Somebody
I
said
can't
to you
remember telling
something or other, Connie, or something like that. I'm sorry. Do you feel your name has been appropriated?
No, it's all right. I just couldn't remember saying
Well,
it.
you must have done. I never could have guessed.
No, I suppose not.
Anyway, you're right. He did want to talk to her. He noticed her the first time she stepped onto the platform. The way she stood looking down the track, so beautifully poised. Her eyes so deep.
He was falling in love with her.
Of course he was. He was powerless not to.
You couldn't really call it love, not if they hadn't even spoken.
You think it always needs words, do you?
Well,
You think he was deluding himself?
well, she might have been awful.
Oh, she might.
Very pretty, but thoughtless or something. Stuck up.
She might, yes. Would that have been reason not to fall in love with her? Does reason come into it? And she wasn't very pretty. She was beautiful.
Oh. Well, I beg her pardon.
So he watched her over the months, stepping onto the train on a Monday morning, stepping off on a Friday night, walking dreamily up the lane to the house, waiting. And then, of course, came the night of the rain, and no carriage. Perhaps you'd like to shelter in the waiting room, miss. And she smiled and nodded. So she came in, and he prepared the waiting room. He brought in coal and lit the fire. He put a kettle on and set a jam jar on the table with some late-flowering veg in it. It was nearly October. The sky was dark and streaked. The first leaves were starting to fall. From time to time he glanced at her, sitting by the fire, her brown coat with the herringbone pattern, her small hands loosely clasped on her bag, her dark, dark hair. And then he busied himself again, a smut on the window wiped, a drop more oil on the troublesome catch. While he was doing these things, he was as happy as he had ever been before. He didn't know it, but he was as happy as he ever would be.
Ever?
I think so, yes.
That's so sad.
It was sad that he was happy. You're not making sense.
Wish that was the happiest he was ever going to be.
But didn't you hear me say he was very happy doing these things? And he was young. Perhaps you don't know this, but as you go on in life, happiness becomes more elusive.
Well, that's something nice to look forward to.
It's true. For one thing, you encounter sadness, and you're never simply happy after that. There's always some shard of sadness in your heart, a memory that pierces you at the very moment when you might be completely happy. But perhaps you found this.
I don't think so, no.
Well, perhaps you will. There's something in the past that doesn't want to be forgotten, won't be forgotten. It's clearest when you're off your guard and you think, yes, now, here, I'm completely happy. On a walk in the country, perhaps seeing the first blossom in the hedgerow, the promise of summer. You know moments like that? They're delusions. There's nothing complete about them. Anyway, there he was, our young man, alone with the girl he loved, and his heart full to bursting because she looked at him and smiled, as if she liked him. It was close to perfect. It needed just one thing.
What was that?
There was a moment when he'd finished all his preparations and the waiting room was warm and homely, when she might have spoken. Asked him a question. Said his name.
Did she know his name?
I believe she did. Some Monday mornings there were passengers who called him by name. Good morning, Davy. She must have heard that. He certainly knew her name.
But she didn't say anything, did she?
No.
I thought not. And he didn't either.
He couldn't.
He could? You said it wasn't shyness, but I think it
No.
was. He was tongue-tied.
Look, you don't understand what it was like. How difficult it was to break with convention. This was 50 years ago, and those sort of people set the rules. We've stopped again.
Yes. I don't think it's a station, though. There's nothing to stop for. It's in the middle of nowhere.
I'll take a look. Oh, the track ahead divides. That's what it is. I expect someone has to change the points.
Let me see.
You can see the tracks in the moonlight.
There's only one set.
Off to the right, look. The rails are old, so they don't show up.
Oh, yes.
And partly overgrown.
I can see. But look at it. Nothing's been down there for years. And I don't believe the points will have been changed in years either. I don't like this.
I'm sure it's all right.
Well, I'm not. And there's no one about, and no one else is looking out of the window, and I don't like it. What's happening?
I really can't say.
I'm not sure I believe that either.
No?
You know an awful lot, I think.
Do I?
Like where we are, and where we're going, and who I am, and...
Oh, your name, you mean?
My name. I can't remember telling you.
Well, no, you didn't.
What?
I did know your name.
Well, how? Who are you?
I think we're moving again. So we are. And which track will we take, Connie? Where do you think we're going?
I don't know.
The old track, of course.
What I think is that I'd like to go and sit somewhere else now.
Well, you can't do that.
Well, we'll see, shall we?
You can't get into the corridor, I'm afraid.
Let me out.
You can get out on the other side, but of course the train's moving now. You'd be unwise to try that door. Unwise in any case. There's no one else on the train.
What?
We're quite alone, Connie.
You fixed all this? Why? I don't know you. Why me?
Because you caught my eye. Nice girl from a nice family. Because your hair is dark. Because it's Friday and it's about to rain. Because...
What do you want?
I wanted to tell you a story.
Well, you've done that.
Not quite. I haven't told you the end, have I?
I don't want to hear it.
Don't look at me like that.
Like what? I don't know what...
Oh, I know that look, Connie. There's no point pretending. Don't worry, it's only a tunnel. You could get out now that we've stopped. Do you want to do that? Do you want to get out, Connie?
I don't know!
No. Sit still and wait. That's by far the best thing to do.
What's that?
The lights.
What's happening?
You can see what's happening. They're flickering, weakening to darkness.
Please. Stop this.
Shh, it's only darkness. You don't like it because it's so close. You really can't see a thing, can you? But you know where you are, and you know I'm here because you can hear my voice. And if I stop speaking, you can still smell the soot from the tunnel walls. Otherwise, you might be anywhere, I suppose, at any time.
I'm not afraid of the dark. If you're doing this to frighten me...
Oh, you
then...
are afraid, yes, but you're also being brave. You have spirit. That's very good.
What do you mean? I don't know what you mean.
There. Light again. And all is as it was. Now, let me tell you the end of the story.
If you think I'm interested in that...
Well, you should be. It's the only way we're going to get out of here.
How? How can you say
Listen. Listen. And you needn't be afraid. No harm will come to you. You'll see. Anyway, the young man did all he could to make the room pleasant for the girl. And there they were alone and aware of each other. She had never looked so beautiful. All it needed was a word from her. That was the moment when everything might have been different. She only had to say his name. Davy. Thank you, Davy. Tell me, Davy, what's in your heart? But she said nothing. The next thing he heard was the crunch of the carriage wheels on the wet stones outside. She heard it too. She picked up her bag, gave him a smile, a little meaningless smile, as if he was no one in particular, and she moved to the door. So did he, to open it, to see her out. She took the handle and the catch stuck. His hand then touched hers. It wasn't meant, not at all. And she recoiled from him, snatched it away. They were close just then, closer than I am to you now. She looked away from him. No, he said, it's not locked. He still felt the touch of her hand. The catch sticks, he said, it's all right. He pulled the door open. And she pushed him hard in the chest and hurried out. He fell against the wall, completely shocked. He closed his eyes, but all he saw was her face, her beautiful face. Repulsed. Repulsed by him. When he opened his eyes, he found himself staring at the stove, and he wanted to smite it with his heel, to topple it and send hot coals rattling over the floor. That would have suited what he felt in his heart. He wanted her to be there, to notice, to jump with the fright at the sound of it, to flinch from the scattered coal. He wanted the fire to consume the place and the time, the girl, and everything. But he did nothing. He held himself quite still. Now do you see the point? Where all this is leading?
No, I don't.
She might have saved him.
Saved him? Saved him from what?
A number of things. A week later he lost his job as station master. They never told him why, but he was sure that someone at the big house had said something.
Why should they?
For that misunderstanding at the door, for daring to fall in love with their precious daughter. Of course, he couldn't stay in the village, not after that, so he left and joined the army. And this was 50 years ago, remember? You can guess where that took him.
50 years? 1914.
It took him to Ypres with the British Expeditionary Forces, and Ypres is where he ended his days.
Well, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Poor boy.
If you were frightened, Connie, I apologize. I had to see if you had the nerve to hear everything.
About him dying?
Well, not just that, no. Because it didn't really end there. You see, on certain Friday nights, when the last train is due and there's rain in the air, the young station master resumes his duties at the village station.
You mean
He has been seen. People have seen him. He waits for the last train from town for a girl to arrive and step down. Even when the line was closed, he could be seen on certain Fridays, no more than a dark shape against the dark of the trees, his face in shadow, the gold chain at his waistcoat, quite still, standing on the platform, waiting.
And he's waiting to hear her speak?
Waiting to hear her speak, yes. To say something friendly. I tested your nerve, Connie. I'm sorry for that. I didn't want to do it, but you can see now why I did.
You knew the boy?
He was my brother. I believe he waits in torment, Connie, unloved and unrecognized. And a single word from the right person, sound of his name, will bring that torment to an end, will mend his broken heart. Then he'll be able to rest.
And that's why I'm here.
We're clear of the tunnel now, and it's raining. There's moonlight when the cloud breaks. What can you see?
We're coming into a station.
A living station?
No. The platform's cracked and grown through with grass. Would have understood, you know, if you told me all this from the start.
Would you?
I would have tried.
You know what I'm going to ask you to do.
I think so.
If you do it, it must be because you want to do it. No other reason. If you'd rather stay on the train...
I only have to say his name.
Yeah.
Davy.
Yeah.
Then let me just stand on the platform to begin with.
Of course.
It's cold.
Look down the platform. Tell me what you see.
I can't see much at all. The station buildings. A dark hill behind. Oh, that must be the way to the big house.
No light?
No. Oh, yes. There's a glow. A little yellow light at one of the windows.
The waiting room. Do you see anyone there?
I don't think so. There are branches overhanging the platform, and they're moving as if... And something round and pale in the moonlight. Is it?
What? What is it?
It turned towards me. It's his face.
You sure?
Yes, I can see him now. He's standing quite still with one arm raised. He's pointing.
Pointing?
To the waiting room, the glow.
What would you do?
Go towards him.
Connie, are you sure?
Yes. Oh, poor boy. I will. I'll go towards him.
So the girl walks slowly down the platform. What courage she has. To walk into the dark like that towards a young man who died 50 years ago. Or towards a shape she tells herself is that young man whose heart was broken, who died at Ypres. So she's been told. How courageous and how foolish to believe everything she's been told. The young man had no brother, and he didn't die. He couldn't stay in the village, so he moved to the town. He lost his job with the railway, who had no interest in his broken heart. He never forgot the girl, her brown coat with the herringbone pattern, her smile, her dark, dark hair. How could he? He let 6 months pass before he took the train back to the village. She wasn't there. Time and circumstance weren't favourable, so he returned to town, sat on his bed in the narrow room above the tobacconist. Wait, he told himself. The proper time will come. Years went by, and still he didn't see her. Years. Then one night, there was a girl. Not quite the same, but she had something about her, something. And there she stood on the same platform waiting. So the time seemed to have come. Perhaps you'd like to wait in here. She looked at him, but his face meant nothing to her. Well, it wouldn't. Nevertheless, she thanked him and went in. You'll be safe in here, quite safe, and warm. I'll light the stove. She watches him, uncertain. Sometimes the catch on the door sticks, but you needn't worry, it's not locked. And there's that look on her face. She shrinks back from him, repulsed. You can tell the difference when it's locked. When it's locked, it's like this. Like this. And then the fire. The fire he'd waited for, to consume everything, to punish and unite.
No, please help me!
Except that after the consummation, the man sometimes returns. On certain nights, he comes back to the station. He's been seen on the train. People have seen him, a figure quite unaccounted for. But he's there. When a girl steps down from the last train on Fridays when it rains, he's there. The man gets out of the train. There's like rain on his face. He can taste night on the air. Oh, this familiar place. He looks down the platform and sees a glow in the waiting room, where he had been so happy, or thought himself so happy. She'll have reached it by now. He walks down the platform to join her. Her name is Connie. The name is wrong, but otherwise there's something about her. A dark-haired girl, nicely spoken, nice family.
Hello? Davy.
You'll be safe in here. Quite safe. And warm. I light the stove.
In Fridays When It Rains by Nick Warburton, Dove was played by Clive Swift and Connie by Lindsay Marshall. The director was Claire Grove.